Hello, dear friends of Kabala International. We are once again with Mario Sabán.
How are you, Nacho?
Very well, fortunately. As always, it is a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you.
Likewise. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic. Tikun comes from the word to repair, and I would like to start this dialogue talking about this Tikun repair, but at a personal level, at an individual level.
Look, in principle, there are two terms that are used in Hebrew. One is tikkun, as you rightly say, and there is one that I like very much, which is the concept of teshuvah. The concept of teshuvah, which unfortunately on a religious level is a bit distorted, because in general orthodoxy uses it so that the person becomes orthodox within the Jewish world. And the concept of teshuvah is to return to the essence of your soul. It has nothing to do with a religious question. It has to do with a purely spiritual matter. That is to say, to know who you are in order to really develop your potential from there. It means that when we have imbalances within our soul, so that people can understand it as a car that is losing fuel all the time. It is always losing energy. Every imbalance is a constant loss of energy. If we do not know how to repair or rectify this imbalance, we are always losing energy. So first point, there is a loss and there is a fatigue. That is why there are many people who come to Kabbalah and say, I always feel a tiredness. It's like life is weighing me down, and they don't realize that there is a loss of energy. The question is, where are these energy losses? And above all, the interesting thing is that the person becomes aware of his value and his function in this reality. That is to say, the great majority of people live without knowing why they live. And this is really dramatic, isn't it? Cordovero, the great Kabbalist, said, it is a privilege. The greatest privilege that the soul has in this world is to know what it came into this world for. When someone knows what he came to this world for, he already has happiness, but total happiness, because he already knows what function he came here to fulfill. Of course, if the great majority of people do not know what they come to fulfill here, we are very bad. Because the person feels bad, and then he can also make others feel bad. Because there is another drama. When the person does not find the meaning of his life, not only can he feel frustrated for not finding it, but he can also operate in a negative sense. He can become a soldier of evil in order to have a meaning. That is to say, it is so terrible not to have sense that evil, in a certain way, also gives sense to many people. That is to say, the evil one, in a certain way, found in his evil the sense of his life. But that, of course, is undoubtedly not the meaning for which the soul came into this world. The soul finds in evil a substitute, a replacement for the meaning it is really meant to have. It would have to rectify this too. So, not finding meaning is one of the most difficult issues for the human being. And so what does the camera do? It says, well, what's the difficult subject? This is the difficult subject. Because if we have everybody rectified, we would practically live in a paradise where aggression would practically cease to exist. And if aggression exists, it is because we have an internal aggression, undoubtedly, that we are reflecting it outside. So how can we rectify it? First of all, try to understand that each soul came with a different path. That is to say, there is a text, in the biblical text, in Proverbs, that says, educate your son according to his way. It doesn't say according to your way, because there are many parents that we want as a kind of cloning, and nobody can be cloned. The point here is that souls come with a function. When you find this function, you unfold the full potential of this function. Your function can be a notary being. It can be to study Kabbalah. Your function can be a baker. We do not know what is the function for which the soul came to this world. It can be any kind of activity. Here I would like people to understand an important division that has to be made in order not to make mistakes. One question is aptitude and another is meaning. There are people who have the aptitude to sing, but they do not feel that singing is the meaning of their life. They feel that their life's meaning is other. What does society do to the results we live in? It says, hey, if you are apt to sing, dedicate yourself to singing because you are good. So, watch out. You can be good because you have a gift, you have an aptitude, but the aptitude does not imply the meaning of your life. Maybe your aptitude and the meaning of your life go together, which would be fantastic, but it may also be that aptitude does not imply meaning, that because you are good by fitness, you are still in your fitness. So you are a very good doctor, but the sense of your soul does not vibrate in medicine, only that you have practiced medicine because you are very good. So, you have been convinced by aptitude. And then, of course, to that aptitude, the social applause that reinforces the aptitude. So, of course, people are kind of trapped in this world saying, I have an aptitude. I develop it because it suits me. Economically, society pays me for the aptitude that I develop. Society, in a way, honors me because it applauds the aptitude that I have. But what do I really want to do with my life? Because I feel empty. That is to say, that aptitude is not giving me anything. It is giving me financial support, which is not bad in principle. But there is a moment in the life of every human being where we enter into what we could call a radical honesty. In general, in the meridian of 40 years this happens. Between 35 and 40 or 40 and 45, but we are in the 40 meridian. There's a lot of analysis because it happens right at 40. It's the mem in the Hebrew language. But 40 is also how you start the second part of your life. That is, you start to approach your physical death in a way. So there are decisions to be made. People separate there. People don't separate there. People start making decisions. And the decisions are strong. The decisions are strong. And you have to make strong decisions. Why? Because that is where one has to rectify. The person in a moment of his life has to make a decision to be radically happy. I would tell you practically at the cost of many things, of many pains, to get out of the safety zone. Because the problem we have, not to do the tikkun, not to rectify, not to know who we are. Because let's remember that the teshuvah, to return, is to know who we are, to return to our essence. And to return to our essence implies, I want this path for me. Because this path for me is the one that defines my soul. My soul, that is why I often say, one is where one walks, or one walks where one is. And many times I also say, and from the goat we say, where is the meaning of the soul? In the very nature of the soul. That is to say, the sense is not in an external sense. Of course the actions are revealed on the outside, but the meaning has to be found in the inner work. Now, how do you do the inner work? Of course, we have an advantage. We have the tree of life and its dimensions to know where we have to rectify if the ego is out of control, if there are problems in the family, if there are problems with my self-esteem, if there are mental blocks. All of that needs to be worked on. But beyond all the work we can do, there has to be a decision before we start working. A decision is necessary before starting work. And the decision before starting to work is, I want to make the effort to return to who I am. That is to say, I don't want to lie anymore. There is a moment in a person's life where the soul says, I want to be honest with me. I do not want to do something that does not vibrate me. I don't want to be with someone I don't vibrate with. I'm tired of being with someone I don't vibe with. So I'm leaving. I get tired of reading a book that I don't vibe with. Then I leave. I'm tired of a profession in which I don't vibrate. And what does that mean? That there is a moment where the soul wants to be happy because it wants to be itself. Because this is the happiness of the soul, to be itself. And then there are deep decisions. Decisions that have to do with, I move away from such and such a person, or I get closer to such and such another person, or I change my job radically, or I was in a company for 20 years, and I say, I'm ending my work in this company. And those decisions in general have to be taken. Because if you go through the second stage of your life, after 40, without making these decisions, there are very big regrets that appear when the person is already very old. because she realizes that she never connected with him herself.
Based on what you say, it occurs to me that there is an allegorical situation in the human reality, not true in the human course of events. With respect to those situations of rupture that you speak of, and from a cosmogonic perspective, as it is how to escape from the rupture of the receptacles, is not true in the process of creation.
We can never escape from there. We can't escape what is predetermined, right? We can't escape. It's like I want to escape from my DNA. I mean, how do I escape my DNA? I can't now say, oops, you know what? I'm going to change my grandfather.
In another chapter, we said that you can't escape from the vacuum, so now we can't escape from the rupture of the receptacles.
We can't escape from their whole inheritance. That is, from the inheritance you cannot escape. But beware. The inheritance can be a weight or the inheritance, and you are going that way, it seems to me. You are going that way.
I was going to say
Yes.
that in reality, inheritance is an opportunity for teshuvah.
It's that actually, if we go deeper, one does teshuvah of the whole lineage. It's deeper. But I don't want to scare people who are starting to get into Kabbalah. But actually, teshuvah is a teshuvah of the whole DNA. I mean, but notice, the question is, am I going to take it as a burden to my heritage? Or am I going to take it with the instrument for the possibilities of my development? Because, be careful, every inheritance has a mortgage, but every inheritance has an estate. Therefore, am I going to take that all the inheritance is a mortgage? And no, the whole inheritance does not weigh on me. I am not going to do like psychoanalysis, where all the time I am suffering from my mother, my father, and my ancestors. But I can't either. So what do I do if this is not a mortgage? Well, I make the decision to say, well, what's the best thing about my inheritance? Of my inheritance, what have I inherited the best of? I'm going to take the best of this inheritance. So I take the virtues of the inheritance, and I say, well, I'm going to enhance them over here. I can use this, let's say, to my advantage. Then, of course, there is a question that is, I have the predetermined. In the default is what blocks me and what empowers me. What blocks me, I have to see how I am going to assume it and how I am going to metabolize it within my structure. And what does not block me, I am going to potentiate. Of course, all this implies a very deep self-knowledge of oneself, because you do not know well what blocks you, what does not block you, what you have to enhance. All this has to do with self-knowledge.
Well, let's not move on to the next topic of the function of evil, but let's go down that road. In short, every situation of possibility of reparation is an opportunity that one chooses whether to put it into practice or not.
In the future, in all situations of possibility of reproducing your behavior, what are you going to do? What you raise is very interesting because in some circles they talk about the wound. And I think I like to speak more of a fissure in a positive sense. Because the wound is someone who is wounded. And someone who is wounded is in pain. In the Kabbalah, we don't have wounds. In the Kabbalah, we have fissures. And the fissure, that could have been made by a wound. But the fissure is a receptacle of information. Right? So, actually the fissure receives information for our benefit. So, it's not a wound, it's information. I can stay in a wound of pain where I hurt all day long, or I can stay in an opening because the wound opens me to the outside and I can be taking in information. Therefore, I would talk more. The importance of fissuring, the importance of the fissure. I remember that in Japan they put the watermark on the fissure to highlight it. And we in the Kabbalah do something very similar, because the crack is a great opportunity. In the end, that breakage of the vessels of the universe that we have in our DNA is that breakage that allows the light to enter. Because the vessels are broken, the light penetrates the fissures. That is correct. So, I would no longer speak of wounded people. There are no wounded here. The wounded is the one who wants to be a victim. Here there are fissured people. We are all fissured. And already from that fissure, to see what light can enter my soul in favor of my soul. There are no wounded people here. There are no wounded people here. There are two fissured people here, and they can use them in favor of my soul in this way.
Another talk we have had that has to do with the meaning, not the meaning for which we live. Evidently, we have not decided to exist, but there is a superior will that has brought us to this instance, our instance of existence, then there is also an element that I see that we can relate to the tikkun.
And because when we are in this room that we are having at this moment, and we have a little anthropologist of our dialogue, we leave the dialogue, if it is possible, and the problem that someone can make from outside, looking at us from outside, is where are they going with this? Where is all this going? Where are all these insistences between experts' experiences and analysis? We have to have a base. We are determined by a consciousness that always wants to know more, wants to reveal secrets. Basically, we are in a process of revealing secrets. We are dialoguing, trying to find cracks or fissures where we can get into these cracks, so that from there we can find the meaning after one has his particular meaning at all times without realizing it. We are trying to look for something that we are not seeing, in short, at all times. We are going through, trying to go beyond the limits of what we would call our own structure. They are not the limits of our own structure. They are the cultural limits, the individual limits, all the limitations that the soul has. That the soul has strategies to be able to see issues that today are invisible and make them visible. What we could say that we have as a base in the soul is a very high desire of curiosity, and the desire of curiosity is, we could say, the sense in which we all unite. We are always like investigating, rummaging, seeing what new idea there is in a book, what new theory. And for what reason we are always, almost all humans in this plan, human beings in medical research, for example, scientific research, people would have to put their arms crossed for what? More scientific research, because the scientific researcher, what he is doing in some way, is trying to look for realities that according to our limitations exist, and we do not know that they exist. That is, in reality we live in an absolutely mysterious reality. Then as we live in a mysterious reality, all we try to do in the dialogues is to try to reveal the light. We have to start from a base. We are predetermined by a consciousness that always wants to know more. That is to say, it wants to reveal secrets. Basically, we are in a process of revealing secrets. We are dialoguing, trying to find cracks or fissures, where we can get into these cracks to find light from there. So, to try to know within our limitations, that is why I say we must have a something of this mystery. But that is to say, we are in a mystery that as we evolve, people who work on their imbalances will find in modesty a more peaceful reality than the pride that human beings have.
Well, how fortunate we are that the Creator has given us the possibility to make teshuvah.
Yes, that is, that we can return to our essence.
Thank you very
a
much,
great
Mario.
pleasure.